Hello and welcome back to Tranquility du Jour, nourishing conversations about living a full and meaningful life with doses of tranquility. This is episode 551. I'm your host, Kimberly Wilson, bringing you tranquility since 2005 through this medium. Today, we are talking with the lovely Lisa Lee about her beautiful brand. It's a tea brand called The Chi, QI. Learn how to brew the perfect cup of tea, the benefits of drinking flowers besides the fact that they're absolutely gorgeous, how to make a rose latte, my personal favorite, and much, much more. I think you too will be inspired to sip and enjoy flowers. Also, in the show notes, you'll find a link that will get you 15% off over on her beautiful website. So that can be found at kimberlywilson.com/551. Also, a gentle reminder, subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast app. There's a link in the show notes to Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, etc. So whatever is your listening pleasure. Also, visit kimberlywilson.com/podcast for more Tranquility du Jour. And those of you who are new, a big, big welcome. And you can learn more in the show notes. There's a link to the new page. Also, a few events that are coming up right around the corner. We've got the TDJ Lifestyle e-course. You can join the waitlist for that, which will be happening in the fall, back to school time. And it's a 5-week course where we explore the various 5 tenets of Tranquility du Jour living. Wellness, which is definitely includes tea sipping, compassion, creativity, style, and mindfulness. You'll also find a link to sign up for the free TDJ Live Masterclass. It's a 1-hour event happening September 19th. And then also a link to join the waitlist for the TDJ Passholder Collective. And this is a year-long program, and this will open later this year. And it gives you access to all the events, like 30 plus events happening annually. So would love to have you join us, and you can find out more again about all of this in the show notes. Now, without further ado, the lovely Lisa Lee started The Chi on a mission to help people feel more joy, beauty, and inner calm on a daily basis through the power of sensory whole flower tea rituals. Prior to launching The Chi, Lisa worked in the fast-paced fashion industry for 10 plus years and is feeling extremely burnt out. Inspired by her childhood's simple, beautiful, and nourishing tea time with her grandma while growing up in Asia, she hopes The Chi can help busy bodies feel more sense of balance, serenity, and healing. So welcome, Lisa. Such a treat to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited and happy to be here.
Well, I'm so excited about your beautiful brand of tea. And, I was given it as a gift last year. And immediately, as soon as I got it, I got the package and I went online and I bought an array of it, and even have given it to friends as gifts because it's just so, so beautiful. So tell us about your journey into the creation of the Chi, because what I love about it too is how it involves like your grandmother and kind of feelings around your time with her.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, that's like music to our ears to hear that you got it as a gift and you enjoyed it and you went on and bought some more for yourself and for others. That's the most rewarding thing we hear, never gets old. A quick origin story. So like you said, I used to drink lots of herbal tea with my grandma when I was growing up in Asia, to be more specific, northeast Beijing. And I was there until I was 14. And I actually grew up as a single mom, but she worked full time, which really just meant that I spent most of my childhood with my grandma, and she loved tea. So we ended up just having a lot of tea time. And those were some of the most memorable and cherished moments of my life. Fast forward, I worked in fashion for 10 years, a little over 10 years after college. And I was really burned out towards the end of it. And I wanted to go back to a time and a place where, taking care of yourself was really simple and sort of really beautiful, and it was easy. And that's how I felt when I used to have tea with my grandma. And I took a trip to Shangri-La, which is a real place, which I didn't know at the time, but Shangri-La is in Yunnan, which is southwestern of China, bordering Tibet. It's this really hard to get to place, sort of really remote, small village. And when I got there, and Yunnan is the birthplace of tea. So I thought I probably find the most incredible tea there. But what I discovered is actually the rose tea the locals drink. And I've never seen or tried anything like it my whole life. And I've been a tea drinker my whole life since I was a little child. And it was just so beautiful. As you said earlier, it was just so beautiful. It wasn't anything I've ever seen or had. After I came back to the States, I was just like, oh my God, unless you're from this really small remote village in Shangri-La, you wouldn't know this existed, let alone have access to it. So ever since then, I was like, this was meant to be, like, I was meant to do this, to make it available for everyone. So at least you can try it. Maybe it's not for everyone, but at least you have access to it. So you can try it and decide for yourself if you like it or not. So that's how that whole thing started.
I love it. So did you take that trip while you were still working in the fashion industry, and then you just had this light bulb moment?
So I had a different small business in sustainable fashion where I was selling knitting kits made of alpaca yarn from Peru, but it was just so challenging. As you probably know, like, being a small business owner is really hard. So I was kind of just like taking a break, but just kind of slowing down from that. That's when I took the trip. And once I realized, this is kind of where I couldn't not do it. Yeah, I started this and then closed that business.
Now, do they drink it, just as you've done it, kind of as the dried whole flower? Do they add like any particular sweetener or any additional piece, or it's just hot water and the full flower?
Great question. Just pure rose and hot water. They also make something that's super delicate and yummy as well. It's actually, they take the fresh petals and make it into a pastry.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so they use it as a filling. So it's almost like a rose jam. So it's like rose and honey, and they use it as a filling into this like super flaky and buttery pastry as a filling. So it's like almost like a little bun. They like bake it. Yeah, it's really, really, really yummy.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about your kind of branding is, the popsicles that have the whole flowers in it, the ice cubes, like all sorts of stuff. Like, I love whenever I receive like an update from you guys, and it's just so beautifully done. I mean, who doesn't want to drink or eat flowers? So it's so clever.
What they say, you are what you eat or what you drink, and why wouldn't we want to be a flower compared to everything else, right? And exactly like your point, the beauty of these flowers, and I guess pun intended, the beauty of them is that they are actually edible flowers. They're herbs, so the petals are edible. Of course, you can drink it like a regular tea with hot water, but you can also do so many other incredible things, like making into ice. Rose ice cream is quite popular depending on who you're asking or who you're talking to. Rose macarons, like the French have been using the roses for a long time. So there's so many different ways we can incorporate these like herbal, beautiful flowers into our lives, in addition to drinking it as a tea, but which I think is the most simple and beautiful way as well.
I do love the French macarons, the rose ice cream, all a rose matcha latte. I mean, everything rose. Like, I would love to lather myself in and consume. And, I think you even did like a rose jelly that had like or maybe it wasn't the rose. Maybe it was one of the other flowers.
It was a rose jelly. Good memory.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I was like, I need that.
Rose jelly. Yeah. So you have this clear sort of like raindrop looking dessert, but there's a rose suspended in there. It's definitely really, really stunning. And earlier to your point too, like, I think for so many reasons, we love rose, right? Rose is in lots of skincare products, lots of beauty products. It's because it's so high in vitamin C. It's anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, anti-bacteria. So when you ingest it, same thing. Like, it helps you from the inside out. It's naturally caffeine free. So for folks who are either trying to decrease their caffeine or in the evening, they're trying to unwind, this is just a really nice option to enjoy.
Is there any particular recipe that would be fun to share with our listeners? I mean, and listeners, I can definitely put, I've got some links I'll be putting in the show notes, but, for the rose jam or, I think maybe was there even like a rose candle? Am I making things up? But there were like all these like fun products, that you do with these flowers. So is there anyone that's like kind of easy that we could describe to listeners?
Yes, I would recommend two, I think, that are super easy, super accessible for anyone who want to try it. One is a rose latte, and the other is a rose lemonade, which I think, spring, summer, the weather is getting warmer for the folks who are on the East Coast or Northern. A lemonade, it's such an easy way to enjoy it. And the acidic, like citrus, combined with the rose, make the liquid of this rose infusion so vibrant. It's so beautiful. So Kimberly, I don't know if you tried it. Next time, squeeze just a little bit of fresh lemon juice in your rose tea. The color turns into this beautiful, vibrant red compared to something that's a little bit more muted, more rosé, if you will. And you can add a little honey. That's sort of your rose lemonade. You just pour it over a cup of ice. That's your chilled rose lemonade for the summer, and serve to impress.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now, what about the rose latte? Because I do love me a rose latte, and they're not easy to find. So can we make it from your tea?
Yes, absolutely. You can absolutely make it from the roses that we offer. So there are two ways I like to say. One is you can literally take the petals off one flower, put it in your blender, add oat milk, which I found is a little better than almond milk, but you can experiment, depending what you prefer in terms of regular milk or vegan milk. Add a little honey, and that's it. Blend that up, and you have this like decadent, frothy rose latte. That's one way, which is like more almost like smoothie like, because it's like you don't see the actual flower. The other way is you would infuse it like a rose tea with hot water, but just half of the water. You would heat up your milk option and you combine the two. So you heat up, you just pour hot water, add a little honey with your rose tea, and then you combine your milk option. That makes another sort of rose latte. But the rose is intact, so you see this flower flowing in your milk water, in your latte. So it's like a more beautiful option, if you will. But the other one is just as well.
Love this. Are these on your journal, on your blog, so that I could give a link? Okay.
They are. Yeah.
All right, listeners, I'll have a link for these over there. And if you were like, oh, I want a little rose matcha latte, would you do just one of those options, but then just like a scoop of matcha?
Yeah. So with matcha latte, exactly. Instead of your milk option, you can just have your matcha and combine the two.
Nice. I love rose matcha lattes, and they're hard to find, but you're right. Oat milk is the best milk, I think, for these.
I agree. Yeah. I tried a few. Almond, it's okay, but I find oat milk, it's creamier and it just has a better taste to it.
So nice. I love all these non-dairy milks.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of the benefits of rose, which is my favorite, but you also have two other flowers. Can you talk about the benefits of those? Because I love the way you have them listed, and you have like the little booklet, and, so whenever you purchase these products, you get so much information, and you just feel like, oh, I'm doing such good things for myself. So tell us a little bit about the other two flowers and their benefits.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear, because it's a struggle because it's a new product. Like, most people have never seen this, right? Like, like me, when I was experiencing for the first time, it took me a while trying to figure out all this information and try to figure out how to communicate them, because I think they're really important. Like you said, right? I think it's important that people understand what these are and how they can benefit you. So for the other two flowers, the royal chrysanthemum, they're all herbal, edible flowers with no caffeine, naturally caffeine free, and loaded with antioxidant. The royal chrysanthemum is actually a herb that was used in traditional Chinese medicine for 1,000 years. So Eastern medicine, like a herb, and it's known to be super detox. Like it helps you to detox, and it's known for more sort of like cooling. It's a really nice flower when it's hot out. I don't know if you've ever heard these energetics to plants or to flowers in herbal medicine or in traditional herbal medicine. So each plant, it's either cooling or warming in their essence. It's almost like, a lot of women are always cold. Like me, I'm always cold. My husband is always sweaty. So we all have our own thing. We run either hot or cold, similar with flowers or plants. So they have this essence that's cooling, that helps you cool or help you warm. So rose is actually very warming. I think that's another reason maybe we like it, because women, we like warming things. And chrysanthemum is really nice for spring or summer because it cools you down and it helps you detox. And the lotus is actually really, really relaxing. It's like it helps you sleep better at night. When I have a really, really stressful day, I have a cup of lotus at night and I sleep like a baby.
I love it. The lotus is beautiful too. I mean, well, all three of the flowers are gorgeous. I just, how did you limit it to these three, or are these just kind of like the main three? Because I would think like, if there are many of these out there, it must be hard to kind of narrow it down to these three beautiful, like purple, yellow, and pink.
Yeah. Yes, it was hard, but it was very intentional in the sense that we wanted large whole blooms. I think chamomile or lavender, which I think most people are familiar with and have accessibility to them. You can find them pretty much most places. But to offer something that was more unique and rare is something we wanted to do, so that you get this whole new experience. It's one thing to have like broken pieces of petals or little bits. It's hard to make out what it actually is versus this whole large flower that fills up your whole cup. It's just a different experience. So that's what we wanted to offer. There are lots of edible flowers out there. Most of them are a little smaller. Some are slightly bigger. But we try to stick with like one that fills whole cup and in different color and slightly different health benefit. It was hard. I'm not going to lie, trying to decide what flowers we wanted to launch with and figure out packaging, because the flowers are different in sizes, just like us, we're all a little different, our sizes. Figuring out how to unify all of it was quite a bit of journey as well.
Oh my gosh, so much decision making. I can only imagine. And then the different colors for them, beautifully done. The packaging, everything is just so gorgeous. It really does feel like a luxurious experience, and it's drinking tea, right? Which is a luxurious experience, but it's something that many people do multiple times a day. So to have this like such so aesthetically enticing, I think is just really a treat.
Yeah, it makes our day. Flowers make people happy. They brighten our days. Studies have shown that patients in hospitals, when they look at flowers, it has a long lasting positive impact for many reasons. So if you can imagine, when we ingest all those goodness from a flower, it does the same thing for us,
Totally. I love the studies that talk about that with flowers and plants in general, and just how like workplaces and hospitals, yes. And, it just really enhances moods and well-being and ability to get along. It's so interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating. Yeah.
So tell us, you recently did a blog post about the 5 steps to a perfect cup of tea. And I'm curious, can you share with us, like, what what makes a perfect cup of tea? How do we make sure we are doing it right?
Absolutely. Great question. I think first and most important is your water temperature. Depending on the type of tea you are enjoying, the water temperature plays a pretty big part. And I think it's challenging for people who might not have one of those kettles that have multiple temperature, because I don't know what temperature this is. I just have a kettle. It boils, hot water. But if you do have one of those that has multiple temperatures, 190 degrees around there is what we recommend for these flowers. So technically speaking, these flowers actually fall into a category called tisane, which is like French word for botanics or flowers or herbs. They're technically not tea. Tea only refers to leaves that grows from this particular plant called Camellia sinensis. So these are herbs. Anyhow, so 190 is what we recommend because it's not boiling hot. So it doesn't like burn the petals, but it's hot enough that you get a really, really nice full infusion. So Kimberly, since you've had it, the rose start off as this like really dark rose, right? But once you infuse hot water with it, you see just in a couple minutes, the rose become much lighter, almost like a pink rose, but your infusion is this rosé color. So you understand like the petals, the flavonoids, all the nutrients are now in your water that you can drink as your rose tea. So water temperature and how long you're steeping is also important. So the water, if it's too cold, not hot enough, then you might not get as good of an infusion, meaning your water is not saturated of the color from the petals. So that's how you can recognize if your water is too hot or too cold. If your water is too hot, you might see the liquid to be blue the first few seconds because it's kind of hurting the petals a little. It's sort of a reaction. If it's too cold, you don't see a full infusion. Is that helpful?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
And what would you say is kind of the best length to steep? Because, it seems to vary so much among teas. And so would you say like all three of yours are a certain time?
And we recommend 3 minutes to enjoy, but because they are herbal, you cannot oversteep like a true leafy tea, which can get bitter over time. Because they're edible petals, you can literally just zip and steep on it all day long. They don't change the flavoring as much. Okay. So no problem there. You can just keep it in there, keep refilling hot water a couple more times after your first steep.
Yeah, which is lovely. Because sometimes like I love jasmine tea, right? And if you let that go too long, it's not pretty. It just doesn't taste great. Now you also have a blog post about making and using rose water for better skin. And I love rose water. So how do we use your tea to make rose water?
Yes, really, really good question. So you can just use it, and I would call it's more of a rose tea than a rose water. There's probably a little bit of miscommunication there. Rose water is actually a byproduct of when people make rose oil. So it's actually a distilled process, but rose tea, it's still very similar in the sense that you still get all those like vitamins and nutrients. So if you want to bottle your rose tea into a little mist bottle, if you have something like that at home, you store it in the fridge. It probably lasts about a week. So it keeps all those nutrients and you can use it as a mist or combine it into your clay mask. If you use any kind of mask that requires a little bit of water or liquid, you can use that. So you still have all those nutrients. And to add to that, you can do a facial steam with the flowers as well. I don't know if you saw that one, but similar idea. You pour hot water, but make sure you use a bowl that's big enough for your face. And you can use multiple flowers. You can also add essential oil. It's optional. You don't have to, but just from the aroma from the flowers themselves, it's really beautiful. I'll send you a link to it after too.
Good. I love
And you
that.
just sort of drape a little hand towel over your face, over your head, so you get all the steam. And just make sure you let it cool a little bit if you're using boiling hot water so you won't hurt yourself. Yeah, so your steam is not too hot when you put your face over it.
Yeah, I love it. Then how long do you stay hovered over it?
I would say about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I love this. It's so
Yeah.
fun. I mean, Rose, everything is just so delightful. So I'm curious for you, Lisa, like running this small business, what's a typical day like for you? Or is there such a thing?
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a little different every day. But usually a lot of it, especially in COVID, we're all remote and we're a pretty small team. So it's a lot of email and Slacks. But now as we're starting to open up, we're trying to figure out events like pop-ups or tastings and things we can do in real life again, just like pre-COVID. So that's always fun.
Yeah, so fun. Well, definitely let us know when those happen because I need a trip to New York. So
Yeah.
I would love to come up.
Posted.
Yeah. So any final thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners about the chi, the creation of it, the benefits of it, and, the ways in which it's beneficial for our wellness?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to be rushing from one thing to the next, living in the modern life style that we do, between all the breaking news, between all the emails, between all the Slacks and messages. It's stressful if we don't be very mindful of it. So I think having a moment of joy with a flower in your cup to sip on, it just helps you be more present when you need a moment, when maybe your day is kind of just crazy or busy. It just gives you an opportunity to be a little bit more slow, and it's okay. If anything, I just want to say like one message, which is it's okay to slow down a little bit, one day at a time, once a day, even if your day is packed back-to-back meeting, give yourself just 5 minutes. And it's so helpful. It doesn't have to be this long, luxurious thing. Small changes have big impacts in our lives. So little things really make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, that's one of the beautiful things I think that's come out of COVID, which has, of course, been a nightmare, but, is
be real. Yeah.
Yeah, let's be real. But is the slowing down, right? And the
Yes.
just different pace and different expectations.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's made people realize there might be a different way of working or living as we had to figure that out, right?
So my last question for you, Lisa, is the name of the podcast is Tranquility du Jour, right? So this idea of how do we find tranquility in the everyday in our kind of like hectic modern lives? And I think I know the answer to this, but how do you find tranquility in your everyday?
It's absolutely flowers and flower teas. Another thing I love is actually walking my dog. So I have a dog. I'll try to take him to the park. So little breaks, little things in between that are stressful is what I find the most serenity that helps me to feel more rejuvenated or recharged.
Beautiful. Yeah. Dogs do help. They help us stay present. And so does tea and flowers, obviously. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. And thanks for creating this beautiful product.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great fun.
So in the show notes, you'll find links to find our beautiful guest on Instagram, Drink the Chi, QI, again is the spelling, on Facebook, Drink the Chi, QI. Also, 5 steps to make the perfect tea that we discussed. Make and use rose water for beautiful skin, the rose latte recipe, and the floral face steam recipe. So many of the things we discussed. There's also a link to shop these beautiful teas, which make amazing gifts, and save 15%. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've learned a lot about sipping, drinking, enjoying, luxuriating in these beautiful teas. And if you are not in the TDJ Insiders Facebook group, there is a link to join us over there for that. And also, if you would like to receive love notes regularly in your inbox, you can sign up for those. Link in the show notes. Also, a link to my 6 books and planner, Ways to Find Tranquility, through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And there's a brand new video that I'll also link in the show notes that is all about packing, what I packed for a 5.5-week road trip. Also a link to shop seasonless vegan, locally made, eco-friendly fashion, and a sneak peek into fall, which I will also link in the show notes. And then finally, if you have a moment to share a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Amazon, or any of the books on Amazon or Goodreads, would be so, so grateful. All right, wishing you a delicious, delightful week ahead. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Namaste.